Yeah, fine, release me. Just say it. Just fucking say it. Don't you swear at me, you little shit!
Hereditary was the most memorable horror movie that I've seen in recent years. But what was it that made it so memorable? Was it Toni Collette's performance, or maybe Ari Aster's realistic vision for pain? Or was it this? These things played certainly a role in making Hereditary so intense, but I think the thing that stuck with me the most is this moment right here. And the pain of doing something terrible that can't be undone. One of the worst feelings imaginable. So how do movies effectively visualize this pain? In Hereditary, Peter's sister dies in a car accident while he's driving the car. Immediately after the accident, Peter is shown in shallow depth of field. The background is blurred, nothing matters more than this moment right now. To portray the shock Peter feels, the movie shifts from music to silence and from many cuts before the moment to longer shots afterward. This moment of change is marked by this wide shot, which is showing a more objective view of the scene. By stepping back, the audience can feel the whole gravity of the situation. In Oppenheimer, a historical biopic, Nolan uses horror tropes to portray the moment Oppenheimer truly understands and visualizes for himself the human consequences of the atomic bomb. Like Peter in Hereditary, Cillian Murphy's face is shown in shallow depth of field, which gives the feeling of Oppenheimer being in complete focus on the guilt that is overwhelming him. His face moves additionally in and out of focus to show his experience of extreme loss of control about the bomb and his emotional state. The zoom in and the shaking walls in the background further convey how the guilt gradually consumes him. In some shots the camera feels a bit too close and his face is darkly lit, which creates a sense of confinement. In Manchester by the Sea, the main character Lee loses his 3 kids in a tragedy that was unintentionally caused by him. Unlike in Hereditary, we don't have a clear defined moment of shock. Instead, Lee more or less remains in denial until he is directly confronted with the reality of the situation. In this moment we get a shot of Lee standing with his brother. There are no diegetic sounds, there's only music. By the use of a static medium shot instead of a close-up, we get a more objective view in his emotional state than in Oppenheimer or Hereditary. Lee also falls a bit out of focus. The slight use of slow motion makes everything feel heavy, and the long lens creates a feeling of confinement, similar to what we saw in Oppenheimer. In these moments of realization, characters understand that they can't go back. They understand what is ahead of them now, and therefore their whole being changes. They become more thoughtful and quiet. They isolate themselves from other people and in their own head. They feel solely responsible for what has happened, even when that isn't always the whole truth. In Manchester by the Sea, Lee is being isolated through composition. After Lee's house burned down, he finds himself in an interrogation room. The window of this room not only separates him from the police officers in the room, but also from everything outside. In the next shots we see Lee being shown in a low angle. As Lee recounts his point of view, the camera pushes in on him. A 3-shot becomes a close-up, isolating him further and offering the audience a deeper connection to his thoughts. In Oppenheimer, the audience gets an isolated perspective of what is going on in Oppenheimer's head through removing the typical sound elements that you would normally hear in an auditorium and exchanging them with his subjective experience of this moment. He gets isolated from the outside world through sound and his visions. After the accident, Peter is often shown alone, separated from his family. In this particular scene, following his sister's burial, Peter is framed isolated in the background, visible through a window. His view is distorted. The POV shot draws the viewer closer into his thoughts. There is additionally this inability to act. Everything you could do won't change anything. The fact that you can't change anything is so overwhelming that the character becomes passive. The answer to this feeling of powerlessness is often avoidance. For Peter, avoidance happens right after the accident. He just drives home and goes to bed. He even avoids to talk to his parents. Lee instead moved to a different city because he isn't able to live around the place where everything happened. He keeps busy all day long to avoid to think about the past. Inactivity is a constant struggle for him, and Oppenheimer avoids truly fighting back in the hearing, to probably have this feeling of redemption when he gets punished. These characters search for redemption, but not in a very active way. I think that there is this thought that they deserve all that pain, and in some way they want to stay in that pain to simultaneously get rid of it. These characters tend to get depressed. In depression there is this false thought of nothing ever returning back to a good place. In Hereditary we have these long fades and match cuts that are indicating that Peter's situation stays the same. Most of the rest of the movie, we see him lying in bed, sleeping or thinking. He probably would rather be asleep for a moment than to further think about the whole situation, provided he's lucky enough to not have bad dreams. In the moments in which we see Lee getting better, his past catches up to him. There's no escaping it, especially in the town where the tragedy happened. He feels additionally no social pressure anymore, and he is living, therefore, a detached and disconnected life. Part of this horror of guilt is that there isn't really a solution, and it is hard to say to what degree healing is possible in these situations. Lee seems as he's basically dead, yet he was still able to better himself and to again find connection in his life. Nothing will ever be as it was, but there probably is a chance to give something back through all that pain. It won't take the pain entirely away, but it would ease someone else's.